So, okay, your speaker today is Andres Gutierrez, it's me. I'm coming from very far away. I'm coming from, actually from Colombia, which is in South America. And that is how Bogota likes, it is the place where I used to live, or where I live. And I am a programmer for over 12 years now. And I have dedicated exaggerated amount of time and programming and writing code on different programming languages. And I'm currently obsessed with high-performance applications, networking, computer science, compilers, and more. So, okay, so what is Phalcon? Phalcon, besides being a web framework, as you already know, Phalcon is a bit different from other frameworks because it is written as a C extension. So this difference is very important and very relevant, and this is why you have to take that into account, because this makes Phalcon very special and it's real difference from other frameworks. Raise your hand if you have ever used Phalcon before. Okay, cool. Okay, so Phalcon initially was like writing in full C programming language, but now it's writing as a combination, as a mix of Zephir and C. So I'm going to talk about Zephir more later in deep. Okay, so I'm going to start talking about the history of Phalcon and what were the motivations and behind its creation, and I'm going to talk about the huge amount of effort that we put to create this framework in the very unique way that it currently is. Okay, so back in 2011, we and a group of friends in Colombia, we're curious about how we can start experimenting about C extensions for PHP. At that moment, we were able to write PHP applications as yours, you can, but we were very curious about how we can write C extensions. So at that moment, it looks like black magic for us. It was like rocket science, write an extension, but we started like discovering this step by step very slowly. So we started writing small extensions to address some specific problems we had at the moment. And we slowly started to make more complex extensions. We also studied other extensions that were available in the internet, and we learned and grabbed some ideas for the big project we had that was creating a framework in C. At that moment also, we don't even know that C would perform that better compared to PHP. That was like a surprise for us then when we had Phalcon complete. Also at that moment we have to call Phalcon Spark instead of Phalcon. We wanted to use the name Spark, but then Phalcon looks very nice because it's the combination of PHP plus Phalcon, the fastest animal in the world. And the combinations, we end up having the name Phalcon. Okay, so in 2012, we finally end up with a conglomerate of code that could be useful in the form of a library of our framework. This was the first initial version that we opened up to the public. It was good enough to the people to use, but to be honest, that there were some problems in the design. There were so many trouble that we didn't like it at that moment. As you can see, our followers were very small, like my friends and my mom. That as today, she still doesn't know what I do. So, nevertheless, we continue to work, and we continue finding better ways to organize our code, to organize our components, to bring more value to the community. We really wanted to do this. So finally, in 2012, we released the first, the Phalcon 0.5, which was the first version that I think that we are proud of, because this is the first real version that was a real alternative to other frameworks in the market. It was really, really stable and good enough to many developers to use. It also delivered many important components like dependency injection, PHQL, which is a SQL dialect on top of the parser technology provided by SQLite. So we extract this technology that they have like hidden there. That was the parser lemon, and we introduced this into Phalcon, and we created this PHQL that I guess you already know. Also, PHQL is a very important feature for developers because it provides like a set of security improvements for your application, for your PHP application that I guess that when you are using plain raw SQL, you have many problems because you will probably have many SQL injections, and PHQL tries to protect you against that. We have other important components like micro applications, like command line interface applications. We finally have support for MySQL and PostgreSQL via PDO. So this was the first version that we were proud of. Then we released Phalcon 0.6, which introduced Bold, which is a template engine for PHP, but written in C. And we introduced the first ODN in C for PHP that was supporting MongoDB databases. So every new version introduced many useful features. And so we had like big improvements every new version in Phalcon. Another thing that we try to do is maintain this promise of having a high-performance framework every new version. So we were really careful to not affect or impact the performance of the framework when introducing new features. In 2013, we finally saw the light, and we finally have like a full stable version that was Phalcon 1.0. At that point, we also faced a huge problem. Many developers were trying to help us by adding new features to the framework or fixing bugs or maintaining the core, but there was a huge problem. Too few developers know how to create extensions. Few developers have the necessary skills to help us in Phalcon because it was written in full C. So we had this huge problem, and we started to find a solution for that. So many developers at that moment wanted many features. They want, hey, I want this validation component. And the Phalcon team started to be like at the bottleneck of the project because we didn't have enough bandwidth to implement so many features that the community wanted. Okay, so the next year in 2014, so as I mentioned before, we had many problems because the C language was too unfriendly, and there was like a complexity in the whole code base, and many developers really wanted to help us, but they couldn't because they didn't know C, and even if they did know C, they didn't have like that expertise to create a C station for PHP. So after mulling over, we decided to create this technology called Zephir, which is a programming language that really powers up and really move forward to move that step ahead to make the developers have a friendly code base so everyone now can help in Phalcon. This was a really, really, really important step ahead for Phalcon. So we started to design this language, and this language that we created from the ground up. We designed it exactly as we wanted, exactly as I needed. And we wanted this language to be very friendly as JavaScript is, as PHP is, but also with the same performance that C has. So the syntax of Zephir is inspired on many languages that you maybe already know. It is inspired on Rust and JavaScript and, of course, in PHP. So if you already know any of these languages, you maybe already know Zephir. Zephir looks like PHP, but with minor differences. And under the hood, what it does is like it generates C code, the same C code that a developer has to write manually, but it does all the work internally, and you don't have to deal with this complexity. So having this tool, many new developers that didn't know C can start to help us in Phalcon. This was a huge opportunity to know more people, know more developers that wanted to help us, and that was really great. So it hides all the complexity that C has under the hood, and the average developer doesn't have to know anything about it. So from the very beginning, Zephir has very clear goals. We wanted the language to be static and dynamic. So if you don't want to declare the type of a variable, you don't have to do that. But if you want a variable to be integer or a string or NRI or any other type that you want to, you can do that. In PHP7, you can also do that, but it is different because Zephir, in fact, it translates this variable to a real C type under the hood. So it is a real integer, it is a real string, it is a real float. And we also wanted Zephir to be the best fit to create Phalcon. So we don't see it like we wanted the next general purpose language, but we wanted to create the best language to create Zephir. So Zephir is very object-oriented focus. It has automatic memory management. It produces more exceptions than the regular PHP framework, than a regular PHP program. And we join all these ingredients to create the best language to create a framework like Phalcon. Okay, so what Zephir does? So it is like any other high programming language at the top. When you compile a Zephir program, it makes like one pass of optimization and code generation. So it generates code, C code that then a regular C compiler will try to compile. So this is very important because C compilers have been in the market for almost 30 years. So they have developed like many optimizations. They have, this is a whole environment that is really developed. And for instance, PHP is very young compared to all the technology that is behind this kind of compilers. So, and at the end, it translates the code to native execution. So it means there is no virtual machine to execute any Zephir code, and it runs as fast as it can, depending on the machine where it's running on. So this is how actually it works, and this is how Phalcon also works. It has this Zephir of the top level, and then the Zephir compiler translates it to native code machine. Okay, so Zephir also had the ability to create extensions for both PHP7 and PHP5, which will become deprecated at some moment. But now we have the option to create optimized code for both backends. Last year we spent a lot of time refactoring Zephir to allow multiple backends, so we can generate code for PHP5 and generate code for PHP7. We also have the ability to create DLLs for Windows and to create shared objects on Linux and Mac OS. And we also have native OS X support. So Zephir allows us to generate all of this without having to deal with. So we move all this complexity from Phalcon to a new project called Zephir. We have different contributors that have a different ecosystem, and the original Phalcon developers that are only interested in Phalcon doesn't have to deal with this. Okay, so Zephir is also a language that is recognized by GitHub. So if you start a project in Zephir, you will see that it appears there. And this option is also useful because you can track what other projects are being developed using Zephir. So that is very useful to you if you want to learn more about how others are using Zephir on their projects. Okay, so I wanted to talk a bit about the performance of Phalcon. And you already know that it is really fast, but I want to warn you about many things that maybe aren't clear about the performance of Phalcon. So you will find on the internet many benchmarks. Some of them are very simple and some of them are very complex. But in most of them, you will see that Phalcon is really fast and is always on the top of the charts. But for instance, this is the Tech Empower benchmark, which is really common. We stopped creating benchmark ourselves because people say that we could change the data, etc. But this is very important because they compare different tools, different languages, different frameworks, and this is also important because you can see that I don't know if you can read that, but there is HHBM. There are frameworks running on HHBM, and most of them are running on PHP7. So as you can see, Phalcon is still, after 5 years of development, is still really faster. But I want to warn you about something. This kind of benchmark aren't useful if you really want to choose the best framework for the job. Please don't take this into account because this is simply a benchmark of a Hello World benchmark, and this is really important because most applications aren't Hello World applications. But I want to clarify something that is really important: is that Phalcon doesn't bring you performance to your applications. Instead, it is really lightweight, so it won't drop you the requests per second that as many as other frameworks in the market. So I made this small experiment the last month, and I started with a new machine with Ubuntu, and I installed Nginx, so it gave me like 9,000 requests per second. And then I installed PHP7, and it gave me 5,000 per second. So I had, just for install PHP7, now I get in 4,000 less requests per second. And then we start Phalcon, the latest version of Phalcon, and now I'm getting the half of that. I'm getting only 2,500 requests per second. And then I added a connection to MySQL, and now I'm getting only 800 requests per second. So every time you add a new layer, it drops the number of requests per second because every layer that you add to your web stack drops the number of requests per second. So what you can do? The only thing that you can do is try to choose the tools that don't drop so many requests per second. That could be, I don't know. This could be the way to choose a framework. Please make this experiment. This experiment is called like some basic form of profiling. But you can do this to check how many requests per second is your current technology dropping in one layer to another layer. So, Okay, so you will find on the internet that performance is not important. Maybe it's not important for certain types of industries. And I'm currently working for the video game industry where performance is really important, and I have to move every possible setting in the whole stack to increase the number of requests per second because performance is really important when I'm working. Maybe there are other industries where performance isn't important, where maybe there are other kinds of good practices that maybe apply to those industries. But in the case of video games, for instance, performance is really important. So I have to choose the best tools, the fastest tools. I have to tune, I have to profile, I have to do a lot of things because I really, really need faster backend. So when you are on the internet, this also applies for many good practices that you hear on many conferences, on many blog posts. They told you, you have to do things this way because this is the way that everything works. And that isn't true because every single industry is different from another. And you have to understand what are you working on, what are your requirements, what are your priorities. So every single industry have different priorities, and you have to understand that. If you want to success in a single industry, you have to understand what are you working on. You can just choose any blog post that you find on the internet, and they're telling me that I have to do this way, and I don't have to do these other things. And yeah, so please do that if you really want to success on what you are doing. Okay, so another thing that people say is that Phalcon is only about performance, and it doesn't provide the same functionality that other frameworks do, but that isn't true. What we really want to do in Phalcon is to provide a balance. So this balance means that we have to provide a robust functionality, a complete functionality too. So any developer have enough tools to create an application, an API, all the applications that it has to create. Obviously, I won't say that Phalcon is perfect for every single scenario, but we wanted to provide enough functionality so you can create most applications using Phalcon, also having good performance. So we have a lot of components that fulfill many requirements, and you have to study them and check if they suit for your applications. Also, one good thing about Phalcon is it is loose coupled, so you can choose any of these components, and if it is useful for your application, you can use it without having to depend on other dependencies in the framework. There are some hard dependencies like the DI, but most of them can be used without any dependency. Okay, so another thing that I want to say you is that Phalcon is not like a silver bullet that you install it and automatically everything is fast and you don't have to do anything, because I will lie you if I say that. So what is real is that Phalcon are providing you all the tools that you need to create a faster application, such as cache. So we are supporting Redis, we are supporting APC, we are supporting Memcache, we are supporting AirSpike, we are supporting many backends. So if you know how to build an existing scalable application in other framework or other language, you also, that knowledge that you have is a knowledge that you also have to apply to Phalcon, because Phalcon, you are writing the words SQL expression error that drops the performance down. So Phalcon won't help you there because Phalcon doesn't know about that. So you have to improve your skills to understand this kind of stuff, that there are indexes, there are database tuning, there are yeah, there are many aspects that makes an application faster. So it isn't true that Phalcon will automatically make your application faster, but it will help that, as I show you in the example. But there are many aspects that you have to take into account, not only in Phalcon, but in any framework or any language that you use to create your backend. For instance, also scale up a session is another important stuff that you have to understand, that you have to use adapters on different components of Phalcon to make it more scalable. Phalcon doesn't make your application scalable by installing it or just by using it. So I'm going to finish talking about Phalcon 3.0, which is the last version we released like 1 month ago. This version finally supports PHP7. When PHP7 saw the light like 1 year ago, maybe for most of the frameworks in the market, it was like, let's change this syntax that is not working here. Let's change this reserve word that we use by mistake. But for Phalcon, it was a really huge refactor, because we had to, in Zephir, we had to refactor the whole language to include a new backend. The memory management, many of the syntax of the calls in the API, and internal API of PHP changed a lot. So the impact that we have to do was really big. So it took almost 1 year for us to refactor Zephir to bring PHP7 support, and that was a really huge amount of work. Another important stuff in Phalcon 3 was remove all APIs. So we have some repeated codes, we have some deprecated APIs in Phalcon 2. So we took that opportunity to remove that and make a new modern framework. So, but Phalcon 3 includes many busy breaks. So if you're upgrading your application from Phalcon 2 to 3, you will find that many APIs has changed. And another important thing is that we introduce LTS support, long-term support. So we are going to support Phalcon until 2019. It means that it is 3 years of support. So you can now choose to start up a project in Phalcon, and you will have 3 years of support from the Phalcon team, from the core developers. Our social networks has increased a lot. We have more than 12,000 followers in our social network. So the community is now bigger, and we have like 7,000 stars in GitHub. So the project has reached every single spot in the world. So it is really great how see how the project has evolved across time. Okay, gracias. Do you have any questions?
Hi. So I mainly came here to ask you 2 questions. I probably will finish with 1. So I think the dependency injection in Phalcon is great, but when you're talking about loosely coupled framework, you're basically talking about dependency injection component being injected into every single class that you find in Phalcon. Thank you. On top of that, there is a second point to that. So dependency injection in Phalcon, for those of you who don't know, allows you to create classes not by aliases as a lot of other dependency injection components, but by class names, full class names. Yeah. Usually that's when the other part of loosely coupled frameworks breaks, because I myself had to rewrite a lot of public methods, especially in ORM part of the Phalcon, to allow other models being created by the dependency injection, for example, in query, in model, and stuff like that. So my question is the following. Can you estimate, or when, or if any, config for the DI, and whether you promote or discourage the ability, to create classes by class names, fully qualified class names. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question, and yeah, I think that if I talk in terms of good practices and bad practices, I think that it is a bad practice and place the full name of the class there. And well, Phalcon also have like this kind of constructor, setter, and public injection, but most people are using the dependency injector as a service locator. So I think that sometimes it enacts like a bad practice. So yeah, maybe we can try to improve that in Phalcon 4. Also, in Phalcon 3 we started to adopt Semver. So that means that we are going to start releasing more big versions more frequently, because now every new busy break that we introduce, we have to release Phalcon 4, Phalcon 5. So you can expect more big versions in the next months. Another question? No questions? Anyone wants stickers? You already have stickers out there, but this is mine. I brought it from Colombia. It sounds like... They smell like coffee.
Hi. Does Phalcon supports?
Okay.
Does Phalcon supports PSR standards?
What?
Does Phalcon supports PSR standards?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing that we have to improve. Yeah, we haven't that time to implement all the PSR standards that have come out recently. We only are supporting PSR 3, PSR 4, but we have to support PSR 7, and with PSR 11. Yeah, there are so many PSR that we are not supporting right now, but we hope to do that in Phalcon 4.
Okay, thank you.
To generate PHP? Currently not, but with the refactor we made in the last year, now Zephir can be easily transformed in a code generator for PHP. So you can write Zephir and it translates into PHP. And when that happens, that will be very interesting, because Phalcon can be fully generated to PHP. So if you are using a shared hosting, you will be able to use Phalcon there. Oh yeah, so yeah, I don't know, 6 months. Okay.
Thank you for really good speech. During the questions, I heard that some plans for Phalcon version 4. Would like to know what plans, what features are going to be provided in new version of framework. That's the first question. And second question, there can be some maybe not great changes in PHP. There will be new updates like PHP version 7.1 or something like that. Will these new versions affect Phalcon 3? It's the second question. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Regarding the first question, I must say that I'm not yet clear about how many features we will introduce in Phalcon 4, but something that I want to try is create something like a data mapper. So I'm planning to replace Active Record by data mapper, or maybe support both. but we want to try because Active Record has many drawbacks, many problems, many bad practices, like inherent many bad practices. So I want to try implement a data mapper. That will be a big change probably, and it will break many applications as well. And regarding the second question, what?
It's about future
yeah.
PHP versions.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I don't think that PHP, for instance, PHP 7.1 will not break that much Phalcon as PHP 7 did. But I don't know. We don't know exactly what changes will be introduced in Phalcon 8, for instance. We don't know if they are going to rewrite the whole core in Go or something. So that could be a risk. But if they don't change the core too much, they shouldn't be that huge refactor as we have to do at that point in the last year.
Okay, thank you.
One question, how it works and it works with some precompilers like HVM, Hip Hop Virtual Machine, or PHP7 Opcache or PHP5 Opcache?
How does it work?
Yeah, does it work?
We currently don't support HHVM. It is a very different engine that I don't even know how it works internally. Maybe someday I will try to tackle that up, but currently I don't know. But Phalcon works really well with OP cache. So yeah, while Phalcon is currently very focused on the Zen engine, and the Zen engine, if it works there, Phalcon works also I hope, very well. But HHVM is a very different implementation of PHP that we have to create another Zephir to support HHVM, and I don't know if the community and the market share of HHVM is enough big to warrant the effort.